Okay.
out of the
Yeah.
hotel.
Yeah.
That's not there anymore. That thing's gone now. Like that thing was up for about 6 months or something. And then the
really?
guy that owns the pizza place like rents it out for ads and stuff.
Okay. Right.
So,
After they saw that, they're like, hey, this is a good ad spot, man.
Yeah, fully. But I mean, the mural that they just did recently up on Brooks is like that could probably last a lifetime unless the building gets knocked down, because it's in the back of an alley. It's crazy because it's completely visible from the street, but it's in, and it's like no one's getting rid of it. It's like it's a place that like literally is just gonna be there, like I said, until they tear it down. So no one's gonna fuck with it.
Yeah, I think that's
this one. We knew it was limited time. They're like,
okay.
They said 3 months originally, and then it was 6 because the pandemic.
Yeah, I was watching some YouTube channel from Venice called Shacked or something, and there was some punk band playing or something on the corner, and I think what you're talking about, I saw on the backside of that alley where you could, when they would pan around, I could see some artwork right there. I think I know which one you're talking about.
Was this recent?
I think it was this year or something, or within the last year.
Yeah, there's local places doing like gigs now. It's pretty cool. Like my friends own Venice Kush, and they have like the Kush Lounge, and they let my friend's band No Reaction and Suicidal play there recently, which was super cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was dope. It was right on the boardwalk. It's like right at the breakwater.
It's cool, man. Like punk's, it's like dead but trying to resurrect or something right now. Because down here in Oceanside, man, I mean, there's all these young groms that are like in punk bands, and they're not just doing covers. They're actually creating new music that sounds legit. So
yeah, around here, it's a lot of the older guys putting their old bands back together, but there's also like younger musicians that for some of the guys that aren't around anymore, you know what I mean? So they're picking up like, my friend Sky and Willie drums for bands. A lot of the times down here where like the older bands don't have their drummer anymore, shit like that. Right. So it's a mix, but there's also younger bands and they rip, and they're fucking from like an old school, really old hardcore kind of shit, not like pop punk shit, like real shit.
Yeah, there's we're talking about girls surfing. So this one band that's local, it's they're called Doll Riot. These all young girls, cool. And they fucking rip all original music, and they're fucking legit. So I'm like, it's pretty cool to see chicks, it's like a L7 or something, you know what I mean? Like a new school version of punk coming out. So, and they play all over the place. Like they're always in LA doing shit too, but
dude, L7 just played the Venice West like 2 days ago. My son went. He sent me like an onslaught of photos like he took that he just saw them, and that's like right up the street from me.
Yeah, L7's fucking insane.
Yeah, it's cool shit.
So when you were working for Pornos for Pyros, Perry Farrell, Peripheral, right? What were you doing with those guys? I mean,
I was their stage manager.
What does that mean? What does it mean though, stage manager? I mean
on that, because I was touring, it was like you are the conductor, man, and you are in charge of all the departments and making sure that they're good and they're set up and sound checks and getting people off and on time and all that. And you're getting it from the top to the bottom and everyone in between. You are the ultimate middle management, and it could get really stressful. And at that time, like I fed off of that stress, like big time. I loved it, and fucking the older you get, you sort of like, I would really like for it not to be stressful, but that's never going to be the case. It's a crazy ass thing to do for a living, man. You are definitely like, you're everyone's best friend and everyone's worst enemy on a gig.
Everybody's pissed at you too.
Yeah, he's like you're like a hero and you are a villain all in one. Yeah.
Dude, you're even tossing people off the stage when you have to, huh?
Yeah, like shit like that. That video, you couldn't do that nowadays. That would be like a major lawsuit. But like I said, back then you could totally get away with it,
So one of my favorite songs by Pornos is Freeway. I love that song. What the hell?
Funny.
How the hell? I mean,
So my friend Brian and I, okay, so how's this? Brian and I were coming from Silver Strand,
yeah.
and we went up there, and it was really small that day. And we saw Hosey that morning, actually. It was pretty funny. We saw him, and it was like, fuck, it was almost flat. And the day before was really good. And so Brian's my friend right there on the very left.
Okay.
So, and may he rest in peace. He was my best friend, and he passed away in 2016. And my friends, so he never, I'll get back to this later, me and him and our connection, but he was my best friend. Right. And I was like, hey, you want to stop by the Shangri-La, which is a recording studio in Zuma that Porno for Pyros was renting out. And Rick Rubens lives there now. And The Last Waltz was filmed in there. The band lived there and recorded there. Okay. And so that's what it's like really known for. And so we stopped. I wasn't working for them yet. We went up there and we knock on the door. And Perry's like, what's up? We're like, hey, dude, we just surfed the Strand. We're just seeing what's up. Want to say hi, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, we're just talking. He goes, hey, you want to record like some backup vocals for a song that I have? He goes, I got like the perfect line written for you. And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm supposed to get oh my God, what's the dude's Tom Waits. He's like, I had Tom Waits in mind for this, but like, he didn't say this, but in so many ways, he was like, you're like a cheap knockoff.
Yeah.
Like I can get you for scale and he'll have to get union costs. So he's like, dude, go home, go do your thing, cruise on back up. We'll get it all set up. Me and Brian go home. I shower, we jam back up. Mm-hmm. It's a couple hours later. Here's your lines. This is the way you say it. I nailed it in 2 takes and it was done. And then I got paid for it and got credit. And that was it. It was that simple. And then the worst part was my dog at the time. The next day got hit by a car and it cost me almost the exact amount I got paid to save my dog's life. So I always joke and say I sung for my dog's life.
That is a trip.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, totally.
I mean, just to be involved in that. And you and I were talking. So I have a buddy, Rusty. He lives out in Hollywood, but he was back in the day, he was a huge fan of Jane's Addiction. And then as the bands move around and things happen, Pornos for Pyro comes on. He introduced me to that. And so I'm listening to that stuff. And then, of course, they were kind of like spearheading, kind of like getting Rage off the ground, I guess, right? Back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so then I think it was, I don't know for sure that maybe it was a smaller gig, but it was like the first major gig where Rage was going to be there at Castaic Lake.
Yeah. That was the story with that is so Scott Herman, going back to him, we were at his funeral and it was the same day as Castaic Lake and we were all going there as guests of Porno for Pyros. Okay. And we didn't know anything about Rage Against the Machine. I didn't even know that they were opening. And when we got there for sound check, a bunch of us mobbed it, like carloads of us got in through Perry and them. Yeah. But 2 of my friends had just seen Rage Against the Machine at Young Moguls, which doesn't exist anymore in Hollywood, small club. And they were like, dude, there's this band opening and we don't even know what you would call it. It's like rock, punk, rap. They're like, it's everything. They're like, it's like really like bluesy and funk. And they're like, it's just everything. We're like, okay, yeah, whatever. And a ton of us took mushrooms and Rage comes on. And
that was before microdosing though.
Fully.
Those are full doses.
This was like just grabbing it and eating it. And when they came on, our eyes were glued to these guys. And it was one of the gnarliest pits. And I'm like, I'm coming from punk rock pits. And I was like, dude, this shit is violent. Like, and it was all dust. It was all dirt. It was just all poof, just dust everywhere, man. And I think I told you on the phone, I'll never forget, like, he was like, remember, your anger is your gift. And I was like, oh my God, like finally, someone said what I've been just trying to tell everyone. No one understands me. And he just said it. He just spoke for you. You're on mushrooms. You're like, everything's there for me. And I was like, oh my God. Dude, then Porno for Pyros comes out and it just went like really dormant. And Peter DeStefano always goes, dude, that was like career suicide. What were we thinking? Having Rage Against the Machine open for us. And I was like, totally. And like Porno's killed it, but it was like,
Yeah, they
definitely two entirely different things where like, well, I guess this is the point where we can take the breather. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like, and dude, I love them. They gave me my start. I love those guys. But like, even they knew, they were like, yeah, that might have not have been the greatest.
Because like Porno's was kind of more mellow, you know, like at that, like
compared to Rage, like everyone was more mellow. You know what I mean?
So I went there with my buddy, turned me on to it. I mean, he probably even bought my ticket. I don't know. I think I drove in the parking lot. You know, I see people from different parts of LA from my past, like guys that rip, you know, that freaking just into music and skating and everything too. And I see them in the parking lot. You're like, okay, this is going to be a good time. And then, so we just had regular like access. So we're way in the back, like, you know, in Castaic Lake is wide open, right? Like just huge area. The stage is like really far away from us.
Hold on, you were there?
Yeah, I was there at that's why I brought it up. Cause I was like, when I saw your shit, I was like, I saw your post about Rage. And I'm like, dude, I was like,
that's crazy. Like,
I was there. Yeah. Like my buddy is like all into it. You know, he's into music. He's just like, so he was turning me on to new bands and stuff. And so we went, and that pit, dude, was like, it was the biggest pit I've ever seen in my whole life. The biggest and gnarliest. So it was, but it was like so huge. And I remember looking in there, right? So like the whole, I don't know, the peripheral of it was just super wide. I mean, I don't know, 50, 100 people wide of a river, right? Just going in a circle. And I was going, if you were stuck in the middle in the eye of the storm, bro, like you will never get out of there. You will just get trampled trying to get out. It was the most insane pit. I was like, wow, dude. And those guys just came at it so.
It was relentless, dude. Relentless, man. It was so good. They were just like song after song. We're like, what the fuck? And I remember watching Morello, and my friend Orky and I were like, how the fuck do you make that sound with a guitar? It sounds like he's scratching. And we were clueless to all that shit. Like I said, I had no idea about any of that stuff at that time. And I was like, what the fuck? And then looking at his pedal board and being like, that dude's got like 20 pedals. Like, what the hell is that all about? And just tripping on it all. And then the next day, I ran to Penny Lane, our local record store. And this guy, our homie Jeff Cooley, ran it. And I was like, yo, dude, do you got Rage Against the Machine? He started laughing. He goes, you went to the show last night? He goes, you and everyone else wants it. He goes, yeah, it comes out next week, their debut album. I go, dude, what the fuck was that?
Yeah,
like, there's no one doing some shit like that. I go, man, that was like some other shit. Dude, I was all scraped up. My friends and I were just so scraped up. I remember seeing people like all bloody, but it was dusty. So like the blood was like caked on. And I was like, man, this is like just so uncomfortable right now, you know?
Luckily, Porno's had the two naked chicks though trying to save the day on the sides. I was like, okay. I'm like, all right.
Classic. I remember there was a dude that they hired to walk around, and he was like on ice skates, and he had a flute, and he had like his face all painted. I remember my friend Brian was like, dude, keep that guy away from me. Fucking keep him away from me. He is freaking me the fuck out. Brian's like swimming out of his mind. And he's just like, fuck that guy. And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm all homie's pretty humor. Like, I don't know. Like, we were seeing him in two different lights. And he like couldn't step. The majority of my friends were like, keep that fucking dude away. You know what I mean? I'm like, what? Just because he's on ice skates wearing a wig on dirt. Like, he's cool, dude. Leave him alone.
Oh, fuck, dude. So, Venice, Suicidal Tendencies, Mike Muir, right? So brother of Jim. So this is all connected too. This whole music.
State, that's funny. Everything. People don't realize that. I just hit my boss to this recently. Where like he was asking about the mural, and I was telling him about Jim, and then I go, "Oh, Jim's younger brother is Mike from Suicidal Tendencies," and my boss was like, "What?" Like he always trips when I tell him little connections like that. He's like, wait a minute. I'm like, yeah, dude, like it's Suicidal and Dogtown skates are very family ran. They're very tight with their mom and dad. They're tight with their other brother and sister. And they're a very tight-knit family. And the mom and dad have always helped them run their business. But dude, back in the 80s, there was a time that at Venice High, you were not allowed to wear anything that said Suicidal and nothing Dogtown. like they deemed it as gang related. And their dad was the driver's ed teacher. And in protest, he wore a Suicidal shirt or hat or a Dogtown shirt or hat, and both at the same time during that time. And that he was an old man to us then. And we're like, wow, man, this old man's cool, dude. Like he's protesting for his sons, you know, like he was like, fuck censorship. Look, the world hated us, man. It was like one of the number one tourist attractions and still is in Southern California. But people fucking talked so much shit about us and couldn't stand us. And we're like, well, fuck you too. So we were raised in an area where
I remember
pushing back was like, that's what you just did. You just pushed back.
I remember going to Santa Monica, and you could just go there, you know, like, hey, we're going to go to Santa Monica. We're just going to go hang out. But if you're going to Venice to a party or something, you kind of on your game and shit.
Totally. Whole different deal.
Henry Rollins, Black Flag. Obviously, that's the last one I'm going to throw out there, but that's pretty sick.
Do you know the story about him? What happened at that pad?
I heard something, but I don't really know. You know,
I only know this. He told this story on Howard Stern too.
Okay.
And I knew the story just from like it happened locally, but I don't really know the ins and outs of what went down. I just know that like back in the day, his roommate got killed.
Yeah.
And they had a pad here on Brooks up the street.
Mm-hmm.
And he was touring with his band then. And like, it wasn't like he was a millionaire or anything. He had a roommate at the time. It was like Perry. When Perry was in James, he was roommates with a friend of mine and they lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, some shitty apartment on Sunset. And I'm like, wait, this guy's like on like, you know, MTV constantly. Like he wasn't making that money yet. So same with Henry Rollins at the time. And he fucking, I guess he was on tour and someone went to go rob his pad and the roommate was home and got killed. And he even said to Howard and them, I'll never forget this. He was like, you know, when you come to LA, go to Venice. Venice, it like has nothing to do with the rest of LA. It's its own thing. And he was basically like, even though my friend got killed there and I moved out of there, he's like, it would be the first place I would take you guys. Like you guys would love it. He was like giving props to it. So I was like, wow, that's pretty cool considering your friend got killed, you know, which is shitty. But it was like a botched robbery thing or something like that from what I heard, you know.
Oh yeah. Because
that was like years ago. That was like, I want to say the early 90s or something.
Yeah. Or somebody probably thought he had freaking millions of dollars stashed in his house.
Yeah.
He's probably just trying to come up, you know. And but thanks so much everybody for joining in. We'll get back with them again for sure. We got to do a follow-up, and everybody have a nice day. I hope the waves turn on for you.